Hi, this is Boris Vallejo, and you are listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Taylor, and you are listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast, your weekly digest of hobby goodness, brought to you by the Marvel Cards Fan Collective, an awesome community of card collectors and creators. You can find our two groups on Facebook, details of which are at the end of this podcast, so come check us out. With me, as always, is my co-pilot in all things Marvel Cards. I am Vince Clortho, keymaster of Gozer the Traveller. He will come in one of his pre-chosen forms. During the rectification of Voldrani, the Traveller came as a large and moving torb. Then, during the third reconciliation of the last of the McKettrick supplicants, they chose a new form for him, that of a giant slaw. Many Shubs and Jules knew what it was to be roasted in the depths of the slaw that day, I can tell you. Are you the gatekeeper, Norrin Rad?
Love that so much. And yes, that is the best. I'll tell you, Rick Moranis saying all that monologue.
Seriously, I barely
Slurring.
got through that. Slurs
like he slurs, like he pronounces everything really well. But I tell you that, like it's very much like Malvern. It was just so good,
and he's talking really quickly.
Really quickly.
I mean, anyway, listen.
I think he's telling Egon that, right, at that time where he's getting the EKG. So.
Yes.
Yeah, like he's on the chair, he's getting EKG, and Egon's like.
Plus his eyes have got, he's obviously performing it with these contact lenses that are probably absolutely killing him,
and they're glowing.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's the best.
Anyway, who are you going to call, Norrin?
I'm going to call the MCC Pod, baby.
Hey!
We have an amazing episode for all of you today.
We have. So I want to talk about something that's quite fresh, as in an incident that's been playing on my mind a little bit today, and I just wanted to have a chat about it and turn it into a positive, hopefully, a little bit for everybody. So I think it's fairly safe to say that over the last few months, we've seen quite a lot of people coming into the hobby who have previously not been in the hobby. And a lot, not all of those people, but a lot of those people have come into group or, PM'd people or whatever it may be, and have been... We've had some incidences where people have come in who fully know what's going on in the hobby and know what's valuable, but have been playing ignorant in order to get access to stuff at cheap prices, or maybe pick stuff up. Would you say that's the fair summation?
I think so there's a lot of weird things happening at once, and I think that's the issue that's happening right now, is that a lot of people are coming into our groups under free what is it called? Pretenses.
There we go. Thank you.
And they are saying things like, I'm looking to buy this card for my brother who's been a fan of Marvel forever now. He's 10 years old. And I'd like to get him a green PNG Spider-Man 2013. And I think things like that,
which is a very specific request, obviously.
It's the specific card. I think a lot of people are playing a game right now, buyers and sellers and people who are collecting. There's a lot of people who collect these cards who are very much wanting to protect a lot of things that are in this hobby that are good before it pretty much changes forever, which I would say it's already there.
I think that ship has sailed, yeah.
I think that ship is sailed, gone, and over. But I do think, there are a lot of things going on, and in the sense of gatekeeping, which is what the episode's about today.
Yeah.
But I think there is another flip side to gatekeeping, and I think that's what's going to make this conversation really interesting.
Yeah. So I guess my perspective on it is that there was an incident that happened very, very recently where someone posted in the group and they said, I'm looking to buy something as a gift for my partner, and I'm after this type of thing. Now, normally the interesting thing is that normally when someone is kind of trying to pull a fast one, or trying to kind of wolf in sheep's clothing it, they often don't engage. In fact, they often post and they disappear, even if people come back to them. But this person, to their credit, did engage massively, and PM'd me as a result of an interaction in group. I know this person PM'd a few other people, which is great. And having looked at their profile, it is a profile that's been around for a while, which is publicly seen, and is sharing some things. So I don't think it's a false profile. For example, there's posts you can see from a number of years back, for example.
From where? From the group? Or
from that person's profile, on their personal profile. So you can kind of see that it's not a fresh profile. Now, granted, that doesn't mean to say that someone couldn't have, set a false profile up 4 years ago and started populating.
Well, it's not a false profile. But it's that they're using the profile of someone they know.
I guess so. Possibly. You get that. And that's where it kind of falls into the realm of possibly, what's the expression? Catfishing?
Catfishing. Yeah, catfishing, of course.
Yeah. Which I got accused of doing on ePack earlier this year. It's my proudest moment. Someone accused me of catfishing, simply because they didn't agree with my values on something. They were like, and I was like, no, I'm trading you an entire set, and I'm after these particular cards. So no, I'm not catfishing at all. Whether you value the set or not is up to you, but this is what they're selling for on eBay. Anyway, I digress. I guess so. I don't necessarily want to get bogged down into the specifics of that particular incident, but what I get troubled by is this. So I'm going to cut to my chase, and then we might kind of pull it apart a little bit, and then get to a place where we are trying to find the comment that I wrote earlier. So I have a concern, and my concern is this, and I've seen this play out a number of times actually from people who actually have stayed in group and are now valid group members, but were treated with a little bit of skepticism when they joined. I think it's fairly safe to say. Because they were after the hits, if you like, the big cards, which is, there's no problem in that. So from my perspective on it is that Marvel trading cards have never been more visible. I think it's fairly safe to say, outside of our own outside of our own confines. And that column of smoke that's going up and is visible to people over the fence is, like it or not, PMG shaped, because that's the thing that's getting the headlines. That's the thing that's getting people's attention at the moment, because people are talking about it. People are talking about it not just on the channels that we're looking at. People are writing about it on blogs for sports cards, and I've seen some articles coming through on Google Alerts where websites are writing about it. So that kind of thing is getting attention. So I think it's only reasonable to expect that if someone who is new to Marvel cards and comes into it, that's the thing that they see. Oh, that's interesting. That's popular. I'm going to go and look for that.
That makes sense to me, right? That makes sense. My beef and my concern, and the thing that upsets me, is that, yes, the cloud of smoke, Marvel cards, PMG. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
I love that. No. Smoke over the fence. It's in the shape of PMG. I like that. Here's the issue.
Yeah.
People who see that smoke signal are not people who are just casually collecting.
Not all of them.
People who see, the people who see that are people who, A, have a lot of money, B, have participated in collecting before, either Pokemon, sports, whatever it may be, and are looking for a cheap buy-in to start a collection on. That's let's not get confused. I know I'm making assumptions. I'm sure there's some innocent person out there buying for their distant cousin who's always been a fan. I'm sure that's happening. Sure, why not? I think the upsetting part is that, think about it this way. Okay. If you started to wanting to collect something, let's say Star Trek, right? Right, Ian? So Star Trek.
Star
right?
Trek. I'm all about Star Trek. Yeah, yeah.
You're all about Star Trek, right? When you started collecting Star Trek, you decided to maybe do, let's use a big word here, which is kind of difficult to understand. Research. You didn't necessarily go into a group and ask for the best, most rare Star Trek card of all time and say, hey, I'll buy this at any price. Can someone help me out?
Yeah.
Did you?
No, but I'm not everyone else.
Okay. Well, then you know what? Here's the big thing then. Not being everybody else. I think anyone who comes into a group, and this is, again, the different opinions, which is what you guys are listening to, hopefully, and enjoying.
I love that we're having fun with this. It's great.
I know. It's a blast. Honestly, I don't care if anybody's looking for anything. That's not the point. I'm just, we're just joking around.
Oh, by the way, at the end of this episode, I want you to read out the post you put on Facebook earlier on.
Oh my gosh.
We'll put it after the credits. We'll put it after the credits.
Over it. I'm so over it.
I know.
But like here, and and part of this too is that you have to understand there are a lot of people who have these cards, right?
Yes.
Who have been around, who basically came into the hobby similar to people who are trying to come into the hobby now, who are from other collectibles. They might have been collecting since the 90s. They might have been here and there. They love Marvel. I'm not disputing any of that. In fact, a character collector we both know of, who's a Namor collector, started coming in and buying Namor cards in the last 3 or 4 months, right? And trying to build up a character collection. They showed me their collection and what they were buying before. And in the middle of them buying these cards, they bought their Grail, which is one of the early issues of Namor. And if you don't know, Namor is like one of the hardest characters to buy comic book wise, because all of his comic books are
started in the 40s.
In the 40s. So they're like the most expensive character appearance type of thing. And I remember looking at his collection, the statues and the comics, and he was like, oh man, I got to do the cards. Now that I know about the cards, I can't look away. And I thought that was really cool. So people are coming into this not having a past like everyone else. So it is really wrong of us to assume and all this stuff. And there's no reason to rake those people across the coals. I think the right method is when people in the group, because it's going to happen more often, everybody, when people come to the group asking these questions and looking for things, there's no reason to respond. You know what I mean? There's no reason to ask. Everyone's getting annoyed. Everyone's on pins and needles right now, because the truth is, and this is the truth. And I'm very much in this right now with the people around the people who are doing this and playing the game. I am. And that's not me talking a big game. That's me telling you, yes, this is happening around me. A lot of people are coming into this hobby, the Marvel card hobby, and they're willing to throw hundreds of thousands of dollars at this hobby.
Literally.
Right now.
Yeah.
Literally. That's not a made up number. That's a real number. Literally, in order to be at the top. And that's the game a lot of people are playing right now who have these budgets. And I think a lot of collectors who have been here for a while are realizing very quickly that it's forever changed and are not going to be able to buy cards at a leisure pacing. They are being forced to spend money that they weren't okay with paying. They're being forced to look at their collection and be like, well, I do have debt. I guess I can't enjoy my cards anymore because to say no to this money means I have to like forever have debt. There's a lot of things going on with people right now that are pretty hard things to deal with and things to cope with, especially when your hobby is the thing that takes you away from the hardships of your life, like a lot of our listeners and us have in common. And I totally understand that. And I think it's putting people in compromising positions. For me, the thing that I've had to do, and Ian and I have spoken about this a lot, is get close to your friends in this hobby. Get away from the post, get away from the stuff, and just talk to your buddies, open a big chat, have fun in those things, and blow off steam in there rather than reading the Facebook wall and then suddenly being like, and then saying something. Because I've been guilty of that. And you know what I mean? I've done that. You get triggered. You really do, especially when so much is being taken away from you. So much of your stuff is being compromised. Your stuff in quotes yeah, I think I think now's the time to stay close to friends. Now's the time for me, what I'm going to start doing, and I told Ian a little bit about this, you know what I mean, is that if there is a set that comes up, which there isn't yet, where I'm like, well, I really want to chase something, I'm going to get a group of friends together, guys, girls, whoever, and say, hey, let's get together. And, I'm going to buy a case. Are you going to buy a case? And we'll just trade amongst each other before we start offloading, on eBay and all this other stuff, to try to make it more of a fun community thing, rather than trying to participate with 3,000 people in the group who's not on all the time. The people who are on are circling the carcass. You know what I mean? Like instead of doing it that way, and in my opinion, and there is like, and bring it back to topic instead of talking forever like I usually do.
That's all right. It's a podcast. It's kind of what we do.
It's kind of what we do. Gatekeeping is dangerous in the sense that, and it's not gatekeeping as in like not selling people cards. Gatekeeping in the sense of withholding education information. I think that information is going to start coming out in a real big way, and people are going to be more educated about Marvel. There are things you could be doing before, like research, like eBay sold listings, like Google searching, imaging searching. I mean, I worked my way when I first came into this hobby. I worked from scoundrel all the way into the group, and I was made fun of a lot as well. I remember in Blowout, I was getting closer to finishing the Surfer collection, and I was kind of like, hey, I'm looking for the green PMG Silver Surfer. I have all the other ones. If anybody wants to sell, let me know. And there were people on there who were like, good luck, you're never going to get it. How could you want this card? Those cards are airtight. You'll never reach one, blah, 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 blah. And, that's really aggravating and terrible. You know what I mean? Especially when I was coming from a very genuine place. Now, did they know me? No. Were they thinking, oh, this person's trying to come in and buy my cards? Yes. You know what I mean? There's a lot of miscommunication and confusion happening right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are on pins and needles. And, I think that's a big part of this.
Yeah, I think so. I guess my, where I'm coming from on it is that, obviously those peaks like the PMG, that makes the hobby more visible and attractive to newcomers, so that, there is an element to suspect that, yes, some of them may ask for those cards as they're coming into it. Other people have come into the group and have actually asked some more broader questions. We've seen more character collectors cropping up. I think it's fairly safe to say, which I'm going to talk about on the next episode, actually. But I think what I don't like is when people come into the group and there's an assumption made about their motivations and it turns into bullying or trolling. I just think that because I've seen it happen to people who've turned out to be like not what people feared they were. Do you see what I mean? So it's like, so they're almost tarred and feathered before it's actually anyone knows anything about them. One of the things I would like people to do more of, and if you're listening to this and you're kind of about to wade in, if you join a group, do an introduction post about yourself before you actually put something up for sale or ask for something. Tell people what you're about. Share your experiences. Ask some questions. Have that research be not just something you type into Dr. Google. Have that research be a conversation that you have with the community. Yes. Because I think the problem with gatekeeping is that you used a wonderful phrase earlier on when we were chatting, give them the keys to the kingdom. And I've taken that out of context of how you said it. But I'm kind of thinking, well, I don't think it's anyone's right necessarily to withhold the keys to the kingdom just because someone's new. And that's my worry is that because everyone's a bit... Okay, the hobby suddenly got more visible, and the hobby suddenly, everyone's kind of, a lot of new people coming into it. And I'm thinking that as a collector, as a hobby of Marvel collectors, I don't think we can have it both ways. I don't think we can want the hobby to expand and be more visible, yet chase off newcomers if they're attracted by the cards that are visible to that wider audience. And I'm not saying that's happening every time, but when I do see it happen, I just think it's, I don't know. I just think it's unbecoming.
Counterproductive.
Yes, but it's
it's rude. It is rude. There is a sense of rudeness.
Sometimes I see people coming in, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm with you. Have at them, because sometimes people come in and they're dickheads, quite frankly. And they're rude and they're abusive, and it's like, well, to be honest with you, whatever you're after, I don't want you in the, you don't really belong in this community, because there are plenty of places you can go on the internet, like the aforementioned Blowout, where you can go and people will quite happily throw rocks at you just for saying hello. And I like to think that we can be a little bit better than that, really.
I think we are normally.
I think we are normally.
We are. I think you're right. I think it is. You're right. We can't expect two things to be happening here, whereas like Marvel cards become bigger, and then also, like you said,
circling the wagons,
not invite people in.
Yeah.
And I do think and you're right too. And also, so much about the keys of the kingdom. You see, my worry is that when does knowledge, and this is something, this is something I deal with as a teacher. Funny enough,
oh, interesting.
When you think about it, because there's a line, right? There's a line between teaching someone and telling someone something.
Yes.
And that line, that's a really hard line to deal with. Like even as a teacher, and I've been teaching for over 10 years, that's still really rough line, because you're supposed to be like, okay, this is what we do to achieve this, right? This is what we can do to achieve this. And they're like, okay, I want to achieve this. How do I do it? I was like, no.
You've got to learn that
3 examples.
Yeah.
Look at those 3 examples and then decide for yourself what can work for you through trial and error, through revision. Because the problem is, and yes, this is not a teaching exercise, so I'm really sorry. But what I mean by that is like, the amount of information you and I have given out on this podcast shows the amount of information we keep in the group shows how much we don't gatekeep, how much we do give the keys out at every chance we get.
It's a bottle of keys.
Really do.
Oh no, that's a different type of thing, isn't it? Sorry.
It's very much a lot of, we give out tons of information. And I guess my thing at this point, and this has kind of happened to me both on here and my personal channel on YouTube and my Instagram, is we're like, man, there's only certain things I can share and say, because otherwise I'm saying goodbye forever to ever having the opportunity to obtain something. Right. And it makes me feel bad, because you've known me for a long time. I say everything immediately. Someone asks me a question, I immediately tell them. I don't like withhold. I don't like calculate. Yeah. I've never
Will you marry me?
Been that. I'm just not that type of person. I've never been that type of person. I try not to be calculating, and it doesn't come up naturally for me. Not that it does for other people, just for me, it doesn't. But like, for instance, I just recently posted the MM16 Silver Surfer buyback autograph.
You blew my mind on that, but we'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah, I showed you. I put pictures of the back for you.
You did.
I'm sorry that took me so long.
No. We'll talk about it in a minute. Carry on.
Yeah. So I posted that. And I really don't want to turn people on to other sets, because there are a lot of things right now that people are still hunting, that people are trying to be like, okay, let's try to grab what we want before it's impossible to touch, because that's kind of what you have to be aware of right now, especially hunting particular cards. Like, it's the ugly truth, but it's the truth. But for me, I posted that because I kept seeing videos of people saying, oh, I pulled a Joe Jusko autograph from a 1992 Marvel Masterpiece box. And I'm like, no, you didn't. You bought a card on eBay that was signed by Joe Jusko at a convention. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm not talking about the one that was like the error stamp auto one. I don't know about that one.
Oh, yeah, that was a weird one. Yeah,
that was a weird one. That was like really special off. I don't even know what that was. And I trust the person who posted that. I trust completely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Whatever that is. But other cases, I've seen other things. Like on one thing I saw on Mealy Pops, which is a pretty famous YouTube sports store channel thing. And they showed a card, and it was gold signature Joe Jusko, and saying, we pulled this out of a pack. And I messaged him privately after the video, and I was like, no, I asked him very nicely. I wasn't rude. I was like, did someone sell that card to you, or did you pull that card? And they're like, well, we bought this card from a private collection and they told us they pulled it. And I was like, I'm so sorry. That's a convention signed card. And I tried to tell them that, and we spoke, and they were pretty understanding and all this stuff. I don't think they ever amended it or said anything or corrected themselves, but a lot of that kind of stuff is going around because Joe Jusko did sign a lot of cards because he's a very nice man who very much enjoys the people who love cards, and he's a great figure for the hobby.
He appreciates that people appreciate him to a degree.
Lovely, super lovely. And so he did sign a lot of cards, so people are confused. So I made that post out of that, and not 3 comments in, someone was like, price.
Oh, don't even get me started on that fella. Don't even get me started.
And, it's kind of like, I expected that, that's going to happen. And I don't have a lot of good shit at all.
There was zero indication on that. There was zero indication on that post that it was even remotely available. You were just sharing something.
I know. But that's the thing. I think that's why the pins and needles thing too, right? Is that a lot of people are getting price, how much? I'll buy it. What do you want for it? Blah, blah, blah. What's your budget? You know what I mean? Like, I can pay anything. I make a lot of money. It's like, okay, let me give you a stupid number. Oh, I don't want to pay a stupid number. Well, then, you don't really want to buy it either. You're just, you're prodding me. And I think that's happening in a lot of places. I think, unfortunately that's not, I used comments from the post that we're talking about, and I'm not talking about that post. Because that went on for way too long, and that was beyond ridiculous for it to go off on that tangent like that. Those 2 people not wanting to let go of the reins. Which is, again, people are aggravated, upset, and it's internet culture. But there needs to be that education around, because I do feel for people who are getting ripped off. It makes me feel bad.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm the one thing we've always wanted to do, and this is why some of our earliest episodes are the Cards 101 episodes, which one day we need to revisit those a little, because I'm sure some of the advice would have changed, but it means I need to re-listen back to.
I mean, so much has changed in the hobby.
Podcast that we did 2 years ago. It was like only our 12th episode or something. And probably hear how bad we were. But it's like, there's an audio recording of me as a younger man. Oh, let's go and have a listen. No, there's not.
As a younger man.
But we've always tried to celebrate, as well as having our own little gripes and moans every now and again about things. We've always tried to celebrate different aspects of the hobby, not just the new stuff, but the OG and all that sort of thing, and also to be helpful to people. And it's difficult when you come into circumstances where you get it's the old meme. We've got this this guy with like this extract from a 17th century painting of an old guy, in his kind of Scrooge outfit with his glasses peering at something. And the quote goes, me watching the comments at 3 a.m. with 2 strangers arguing on the internet and things like that, which always makes me laugh, because ultimately what you find with the internet is that people devolve into playground behavior. It's just like, people have to have the last word, and it just gets a bit just step back and look at how you're behaving and think about why you're behaving like that. Here's another concept that I wasn't aware of. Have you ever heard of the term sea lining?
What'd you say?
Have you ever heard of the expression to sea lion someone?
No, what's that?
So, you know how killer whales
we'll hit the ice to knock over a sea lion.
Basically, they play with the sea lion before they eat.
Yes, play with their food.
They properly with them, and so in their last moments are filled with terror. I mean, I'm not talking Silence of the Lambs. He puts the lotion in the basket or he gets the hose again kind of playing with them. But it's from a seal's point of view, it may well be, oh my. Okay, no one has just stood up, put his nuts between the leg, and done the
Buffalo Build him. Buffalo Build
Buffalo
Ian.
Build me. So it's kind of the version of that where you respond to someone. I've lost the thread of why I mentioned it now, so this might go nowhere, but it's worth me telling you.
I'm with you.
It's where you respond to someone and you actually you do so in a way that's not aggressive and not trolling, but you're actually engaging them, but you're doing it in a way that is trolling them. Do you see what I mean? It's kind of you're playing with them before the kill kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people do that on the internet, but
Same.
it doesn't
I've been
happen.
guilty of it.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often because it's quite a difficult thing to do. It's quite a difficult thing to do successfully. It's quite a difficult thing to do and keep it up, and almost, if you pardon the expression, keep a straight face while you're doing it, because obviously you kind of know where it's going and coming in. I can't think of a decent example now, but anyway, but it's a wonderful expression. But to bring it back, I think this year especially, but last year and this year, crazy for all kinds of reasons, hobby notwithstanding. So people's behavior, I find, has changed a little bit. There was and it's gone through phases. I remember there being a phase where lockdown was happening and people were dealing with it in different ways. And there was a kind of a wave of kindness. Everyone was kind of prompting each other to be kind. You saw all sorts of content popping up and it was great. And, just trying to humanity trying to come together and just be nice for each other, with the exception of the people who used to crash Zoom meetings and show porn to nuns having a meeting on Zoom and things like that. There's been loads of examples. Early on, Zoom had these issues where because it suddenly took off, people seriously, people could crash Zoom meetings and actually just flood it with porn and things like that. And it happened to a number of things.
Of the nuns.
Yeah, but there is definitely an example where nuns were shown kind of 10-inch black dildos and things like this and cream pies and stuff like that, which I understand is a thing in some parts of the world.
You're going to beep out.
I'll beep it out. I'll beep it out.
That whole section. Just beep that whole section.
I'll beep.
I'll continuous.
Anyway, I think if we had one continuous beep, I think people wouldn't hear the rest of the episode, which may be life support. Anyway, flipping heck, I've lost my train of thought. Where did we go to before we went to Zoom crashing? That wave of kindness. So you went through that.
Yes, the wave of kindness.
And then it's interesting. We've had a few sessions at work where they've had someone who, he's not a counsellor, but he's kind of used to talking to people. It's kind of a well-being thing. So the company have paid someone to come and do a couple of sessions with all the company if they want to do it, and they've done them every 3 or 4 months. And he talks about these different cycles of response to how people have responded to the pandemic and about that. And there is an interesting thing about the constant anxiety and how it manifests itself. And one of the things you've seen is that kindness is kind of flipped in a way, is that it's almost gone the other way. And it kind of weirdly coincided, funnily enough, with the US election and all the hoopla surrounding that. So, because obviously that was an incredibly emotive time, I think it's fairly safe to say, for a lot of people, not just in the US, but everywhere else, coinciding as it did with COVID coming back. Anyway, I guess what I'm saying is, without meaning to go too deep down that rabbit hole, there are so many factors influencing the way that people behave online that it is interesting how it's manifested in how people are more careful about how people are pricklier to other people, especially newbies. So it becomes what I'm anxious to kind of avoid is, in American Werewolf in London, where they walk into the pub, the slaughtered lamb.
Yes.
And everything goes quiet and everyone just turns and looks.
Yes.
You shouldn't really have to feel like that when you're going into a group and asking a question, I guess.
I agree. I guess
it depends what the question is.
You're right. No. I mean, look, the truth is, bottom line, you're absolutely right. There's no reason for anybody to go into any group asking for knowledge and feeling like they're going to be chased down with pitchforks. You're absolutely 100% right. That's just not how we should operate. And that's not what we should do as the good people that we try to be in Marvel cards. I agree. I think our community is much better than that. I do think my only side to that, and this is not like a half apology, but type of thing. This is more of the like, this is more of a like, just for people who are listening, who are starting to listen to the podcast, who are starting to come into the group, if that's anybody who's in that circumstance. I think Ian said a beautiful suggestion, which was introduce yourself. You know what I mean? Like if you want us to invest time into you, then you need to invest time in us and not just come into the group and be like, hey, I'm buying for this person looking for PMGs. Like, yeah, duh. If I could get I'd love to get a PMG too, man. Like, God, you know what I mean? Like, introduce yourself, stay high. You want this because, talk to us first, come in here, don't try to come in here and colonialize us, come in here and like,
wonderful expression.
Be part of everything. You know what I mean? Like participate. Don't tell us, I don't know. I think, and it's hard to do that stuff. And it's hard to realize it's very hard. I mean, when you really think about it, right? It's like a lot of times people confuse group communities with a Google search.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's been guilty of that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And Google search, it is very robotic. You can be like, hey, what's this? And there are links and places and blah, 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 blah. But groups you really entering, like, for instance, when I did Star Wars, the Mandalorian collection that I went to, that was, just last year.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Was that recent?
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be. So I went into a Star Wars group, made a lot of friends there. Luckily for me, there was a lot of crossover. So David and Jake are there. Brad is there. Mm-hmm. Rebel Base is there. So like a lot of good people are there already. So I was really fortunate. But, I entered the group and I was like, hey, everyone, I collect Silver Surfer. I'm from the Marvel card side. I really fell in love with the Mando episodes. I'm a huge fan, just looking for Mando cards to build up a collection. Here's what I have so far. If anyone has anything, that's fine. If not, I just wanted to say hi. And fortunately, being an admin and moderator for our group and being in the hobby for a bit in a community, I understood I'm the newbie. You all need to know me before anyone even decides to help if they want to. And, get on live streams, comment on things. You know what I mean? There's so much good stuff going around. You have to put in the work. You know what I mean? And I think people should put in the work because I think they'd be surprised to see like, oh, wow, I came here for PMGs, but holy hell, I made friends. I found inserts I like even better now. You know what I mean? This is something I enjoy. And I think that's what people really want when they're trying to build up the Marvel card hobby. They're not trying to build up money. Yes, money moves things. That's true. Having big buyers in your hobby is important because the hobby's longevity continues, and it continues in a profitable, exciting way for the people who've been here for a long time.
Yes.
That if you don't think that's true, you're lying to yourself, in my opinion. But I think what's even more important is that we have people who are here who want to be part of this. You know what I mean? Because it's really awesome. I think that's part of it too.
Oh, it's absolutely awesome. I've no idea who's going to be the intro on this episode. What I would like to do is to get one of the guys who played the original Ghostbusters. Does any of those do cameo? Can we rustle up $200 between us and get like one of the actors?
It's only $200.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's more than that. I thought it was only like $200, but maybe it's $2,000. I don't know. But wouldn't it be great to get someone like Ernie Hudson or someone to do the intro to one of our episodes? Because I say that because he's probably the cheapest.
That's so messed up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I really am.
Okay.
But are you going to look it up right now? We've done a proper crossover here. I haven't seen the new one yet. I'm
Cameo.com, Ernie.
Are you looking at it?
Oh, wow. $165
for Ernie Hudson to do a
personal video for you or someone else. And for business, it's $500. And then there's ratings. What?
Oh, but we're not a business. Oh, we need to check that out.
Tax write-off, baby. Okay, I don't see Bill Murray.
If Bill Murray's on there, I'd be very surprised.
Aykroyd.
Do you think we could crowdfund this? Do you think we could get all the people in the group to like put in $1 each?
Great, Tom Holland,
and to do a Ghostbusters intro from one of the cast for a Marvel podcast? And of course, that makes perfect sense. Did Marvel ever do Ghostbusters comic books? I don't know. Who knows? Anyway.
Hey, I'm here. Tom Holland. Let's look at Marvel actors. Marvel actors. Let's see. There are people on here I've never seen before.
I've never looked at this website at all, so I've got no idea what I've seen people post online, but I've never looked at the website.
You know what? We should not make this show about looking at it. We're going to look into it, people.
We're going to look into it. We're going to look into it. And if anyone wants to donate to get someone actually properly famous to open the episode, then you can do. I'm not going to give our usual sign off, but instead what I'm going to do is say, Ted, Annette, I'm glad you could come. How you doing? Give me your coats. Everybody, this is Ted and Annette Fleming. Ted has a small carpet cleaning business in receivership. Annette's drawing a salary from a deferred bonus from 2 years ago. They got $15,000 left on the house at 8%. So they're okay. So does anybody want to play Parcheesi?
I love it. Oh, God.
And that's what you need to do when you come into a group.
Rick Moranis.
Yeah. That's what you need to do when you come into a group.
Now we got to talk about our taxes. And hang out by the kitchen, eating some good food, and hear a dog from the closet.
You are. I've got the whole scene. I've got all the quotes here. It's brilliant.
Okay, before Ian continues, enjoy collecting, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast. Visuals and tasting notes for each episode can be found on our Facebook page. You can subscribe and leave us a voicemail via our home on anchor.fm/MCCP. We're also on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms. Please take a second to subscribe, like, and review our show wherever you get your podcasts. Our podcast can be found by Googling at the MCC Pod, which will also find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Our Facebook community is at MCCW, Marvel Card Collectors Worldwide, and MMC, Marvel Masterpieces Collectors. The great music we use is called Rocket Power by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks to the collectors, artists, and creators who support the Marvel Cards Fan Collective. We'll see you next time, and remember, it's a small hobby but a fun one. Make mine Marvel and enjoy collecting.
Are you the gatekeeper?
You better bring him inside.
You are so kind to take care of that man. You know, you are a real humanitarian.
I don't think he's human.